Would everyone please rise and repeat the I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. City Manager, would you call the roll?
Yes, sir. Commissioner Stinson,
Here.
Commissioner Montoya,
Here.
Vice Chair Scott,
Here.
Commissioner Mayers,
Here.
Commissioner Bernstein,
Here.
Commissioner Bacon,
Here.
and Chairman Metcalf.
Present.
Mr. Chair, we have a quorum.
Thank you. Approval of minutes of November 6th, 2024.
I'll make a motion that we approve the minutes of November 6, 2024.
I second.
Motion has been made and seconded to approve the minutes. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. Old business. Cool PZ 241144 zoning text amendment to the City of Coolidge zoning code, Article 9, Section 906, industrial solar facility overlay zone, ISFC conditionally permitted uses. 2, battery storage is added, and a proposed zoning text amendment to the City of Coolidge zoning code, Article 9, Section 702, general industrial zoning district, I2D, conditionally permitted uses. 22, battery storage is added. City Manager.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, just a little history on this. Back in 22, we created the industrial solar facility overlay zone. And what that was is where someone could build solar and a solar facility in the city. And so it recognized pretty much all that was already approved and then had some vacant pieces that had already been titled also for solar. So this is the actual code that you have, that we gave you. And it's got a map on like the second page. And that little map, the purple areas or blue areas would kind of show you the areas that have been designated under the overlay for a solar facility. So when we did this, the battery energy storage systems called BESSs, but basically they're big batteries, really didn't exist to the point where they were being added the way they are now. So back then, some people proposed adding them in accessory units to the solar, which is fine because there are accessory uses to it. But we didn't have the battery energy storage proposed by itself. And as you know, we did have that happen when one of the, AES came up and wanted to put one in using the utility portion of the code. And you yourself said, that's not right. It should be in the overlay. And we had some applicants, and they wanted us to fix that. And of course, we're working on other things also. But what we're doing, this is just putting the battery energy storage system as a conditional use in the overlay. So what that'll do is they will still have to come to you and propose if they want to put one in one of these blue-purple areas. And then you, if you so desire, can put conditions on them. You could say, we want it to be this distance away, or it's right next to a house, we don't think this is a good place, or you got to put it on the other side of the property, whatever the case may be. Or you might say, we want a wall around it completely. And just like the utilities do, an 8 or 10 foot wall, solid block, all the way around this thing. And that's a condition of us approving this battery energy storage system, and you can do that. As long as it's reasonable, and our attorney said it's okay, so we can do that. But that way there's a path forward if somebody wants to do it, and it says, as you talked about, and also the city council said, it's got to be in the overlay, it shouldn't be outside. So the only way they can do anything outside the overlay, as long as a private battery system, would be if they try to expand the overlay to to take in a piece or something. They'd have to come all the way through the process again to do that. You'd have to look at it and do that. But this is just for a battery energy storage system. It wants to be the principal use on a piece of land. And that's all it is. So we're just fixing that part of it. I'm working with Mr. Hiscox and Mrs. Neely and representative group that we're adding some more safety things back before you add more things as we go forward, but it takes a little more research. This is something we just wanted to take care of, so it's in there, and then you still have the ability to add things and do address safety and those kind of things. That's all this is. Yeah, and we also, thank you, that's why we have our attorney, also added it into industrial 2, so it's added in there as a conditional use also. That's where solar is allowed in the overlay and in industrial zoning too, like iPads. iPads is all heavy industrial. But even then, it still has to go through conditional use. Make sure it's the right location, it's right to everything. Now, somebody like Procter & Gamble that wants to put solar or battery storage for their own business, they're already covered under that because it's an accessory use to that business. They're not selling it, they're not sending it anywhere else. This is for somebody that's using a big battery storage facility to bring power in like SRP or APS, store it for a while, and then send it. So that's what these are. And then if it's a utility company that wants to set up a battery energy storage system, say in their own, if they have some sort of a yard or a substation, then they would be covered under the Arizona Corporation Commission. You wouldn't be able, that would be tracked through there. They wouldn't come through us. They're exempted under the zoning code or under the building code by regulation, by law. So, any questions I can answer if you have any before the public hearing? So,
Sounds good to me.
I just, general observation here, as you said, as we go along, we can add to this amendment.
absolutely. Well, what it would do is it would be a different amendment. So we would just say, after working with the group, we'd say we came up with 5 things that we believe are really important. We always have to have a wall. You have to have whatever that may be that we require additional spacing between the units. Right now, the space is everything is applied to by the building code, the electrical code, the NEC. Actually, when we went to the 2018 National Electric Code, it actually covered battery storage. Before that, we had the 2006 had nothing in it at all. It didn't even recognize what it was. So us adopting when, the 2016 NEC, it's a 2017?
2018. Yeah.
2017? Yeah. So that allows us to answer batteries through the code. It actually has strict regulations on how they're set up, distance-wise, all the electrical portions of it. So they're covered under that portion, okay?
I was just, along those notes, we're talking about battery storage. I mean, it is battery storage. But in, section 302 definitions, Article 3, I looked through there and we didn't have a definition for battery storage yet.
Oh, he's talking about the definition section.
And then,
Yeah.
So on page 26, it still talks about solar farms, and we kind of got past that
The
one.
zoning code?
So maybe we just need to update what our definitions are in there.
So we'll update that, and that'll be our next
I
thing.
figured
is
you
we'll-
would, but-
We'll take care of that quickly as possible, and then maybe by the next meeting, hopefully, or the meeting after that, we'll address that, and then we'll put an actual definition of a BESS. That way, it's clear on what it is. We maybe have a couple other things we want to add in there, that way we can look at it. There was another thing we didn't have a definition for. Remember, we were looking for it the other day, and anyway, we'll talk about that. I'm
No, I
getting
like
off
what you're
subject.
doing, you're setting up, the boundaries
Yeah.
of what's allowable, and then it's gonna be clear, and then when
Yeah.
people call in, you can just refer
Right.
to what the overlay is and what's contained in there.
Yeah, yeah, that way somebody calls, we say, okay, it's in the overlay, it has to be here, we'll have conditions, and this might be what it is. And then they come through you for that.
So would that be the same as like Nicola? Or,
Nicola, yeah, they're actually, if they wanted to put up solar for them, battery energy backup, they can do that as an accessory, they'd get a permit, and then they'd modify it. If it was really a big deal, they may have to modify their site plan, but if it's just like an electrical, putting in a bunch of electrical boxes, then they would just get permits, we'd inspect them through the Stantec, and go through that process. But this is really for somebody that's a kind of utility scale, they call it, where maybe has 100 megawatts of storage, and it maybe is, you know, maybe 30 big battery boxes, Connex-looking boxes that are lined up.
Yeah.
And they store that energy and release it. Right now, the capacity of those batteries is 4 hours. And so it's getting better and better. And pretty soon it'll be 6 hours of storage of electricity. And then I think the target is 8, so they can last all night. You know, they can store the power all day from whatever it could be from Palo Verde. They send it through, put it in a battery, and then release it, you know, during the hardest part of the day or whenever there's no available power, they need it, maybe. And then those batteries crank out power, they drain them out and recharge them from whatever source they have. It's a little different from the solar ones because the solar is charging those. And in this case, they're kind of standalone. So it could be anything that has electrical power and the lines that can power it. It could be solar, nuclear power, natural gas, which is those more normal creation of power is from natural gas, generating stations. That's where we get all our power.
So would it be like the same if they wanted to use like the water reclamation, like with the same?
Yeah, these don't have that component. Unlike like other type of uses, like data centers, they use water, and so they would have some sort of. And the newer data centers don't use hardly as much water. What they've created is kind of a loop system, like a car, where they charge it one time and it's going through a system to keep everything cool. So they don't. The old ones were like they use a lot of water, and all the cities and look at those would be like you're taking a lot of water and evaporating. It's like a big, evaporative cooler, but those aren't really efficient use of water. So the newer ones now, if we have any come before you, it'll probably be the newer models.
Okay, thank you.
Is that?
So Gilbert, for like the safety considerations, are you going to be putting them under section L of this, additional building and performance standards in that code?
We could, yes. Yeah, they're already covered under the, yeah, absolutely. That would be a good place to put it. But it's already covered under the electrical code, but any other, we would add there for consideration by.
So then if I can ask, what are the preliminary safety considerations that you guys are looking at?
Of what we're looking at for safety? Well, some of them, I know we've talked about, walls around them, what kind of material they would be built upon, maybe that's not permeable. We make sure they have, and we already do this, but we can make them put a retention basin in that's lined. So if there's an issue with a fire or something, it doesn't go into the groundwater. It goes into a storage area. It evaporates out, so there's no contamination. I think, that's what we talked about. And we'll continue to talk about and see what other safety type issues are out there that we may want to look at. They just have to be reasonable. We can't make it so difficult that they can't put them in, build it, and then you get in trouble for that. It has to be something that's tested, proven, that's reasonable, and we'll bring them for your consideration.
Now, building a huge block wall around a place like that generates a lot of heat in that block wall. And I think that high heat is more dangerous to a battery than no heat at all. I don't know whether you want to.
We can look at that, and if it has to be maybe a combination of screening.
I just thought I'd mention that, Gilbert,
Yeah,
because, you build a solid, and I know these new batteries, boy, I've watched fires on, videos on the internet.
Right.
When they go, they go.
Yeah.
And there's nothing you can do about it till they burn out.
Yeah, right now we have the chain link fence powder coated with landscape material to shield them. We've allowed some, they're growing pretty good, but down on Steel Road, south of that, we've allowed oleanders because we wanted to treat it kind of like the gins are. We get a big wall of oleanders and you can't see it, so it screens it.
Yep.
But you're correct, the block wall will block air movement. So maybe we'll look into that and make it in the summer especially because those things, they have these fans and they're cranking out like, wow. They're trying to cool the inverters.
Yeah.
And, and because it's electricity and it's flowing through there and creating heat, you're right. And so if it looks like the block wall would be that, or maybe what we do is we make sure the block wall is far enough back so the air can still circulate around it. Maybe that's the solution, or maybe we only do the block wall on the side that faces the street, so it blocks the view, but the rest of it is another type of fencing. Yeah, it has to be at least 7 feet, and then with barbed wire on top, so that people can't jump over You know,
Yeah.
that's the whole, that's the,
If I got in there,
Yeah.
they'd be a crispy critter when they
yeah,
come
well,
back.
and the electrical code has a requirement that it has to be secure and it has to have,
Yeah,
you know, some sort of, barbed wire is what they've been using. Because
Okay.
it's probably the most available product out there and most people will not climb on that. Hopefully at all.
Would, so just a question, would it be reasonable to say for like the batteries themselves? Because yes, they are self-contained in a Connex, they do have the fans with them, they do have the inverters and everything, it's all in one unit.
Yeah.
Could you see it as reasonable to have some sort of, I'd say, battery inspection every 2 years based on the usable life of the battery?
We'll have to look at that and see, you could have,
they'll have their own maintenance program.
yeah,
on those
because
batteries.
some of the engineers, we've talked to them, and my brother's also a computer science engineer, and we discussed the one in Lemma Corner a lot about, they're all, the new ones are self-contained. They've got
I think the fire code requires a
an annual,
maintenance, well, like a maintenance plan that
Yeah.
includes.
Yeah,
yeah, the fire code may require that. I could talk to the fire chief and see, because I know they keep on, make sure everything is okay.
I'm just thinking that if, yes, businesses have their own maintenance plan, or the utility company will have their own maintenance plan with these.
Right.
But if there's some sort of way that, sort of like a check and balance,
Yeah.
sort of a deal, to make sure that the batteries are still in usable condition.
Yeah, they believe it or not, we've talked a lot with SRP. They can see if something goes offline, like a battery, portions of it, they actually can see the drop in voltage. For the engineer that monitors that, can see the drop in voltage and there's a problem with one of the systems. They'll call and make sure somebody, see what's going on. If something, you know, disconnected or whatever. I didn't know they were that accurate, that they could see a spike or a drop in the amperage going through. But they said, yeah, we can see it. So if there's an issue, or if there's something in the inverters burn up, we'll see it right away. And we'll see the drop in electricity and we know something's wrong and we call the people on site to see what's happening and they'll address it right there. So they're getting better and more sophisticated as they go forward. But, you know, technology keeps getting better and better. Hopefully.
Yeah, no.
So yeah, so a lot of it'll be depend on who they're providing power to. They'll have their own requirements too, because they don't want to. They want to make sure those batteries are working fine. Because if they have disruption in power, you can imagine what it does all on the grid. It can drop the whole grid, or it can hurt the houses they're delivering to, you know, or the businesses they're delivering to. If they're dropping power off to Nikola or Procter and Gamble, and all of a sudden there's a drop in power, and they have equipment running, it's not good. That's why those places sometimes have backup systems themselves, because some of that equipment can't stop. It'll actually damage it. I know we've talked to businesses that want a backup redundancy system on top of what they're getting from like APS. And they're
Right.
not cheap.
They're not cheap, and that's why I was just trying to
Yeah,
see.
it's a substation actually. So they would have to put in a substation that takes care of the secondary power. And then maybe even another provider like Skip or somebody that powers that just in case. So it's pretty sophisticated what they go through. And
Yeah, I
pretty
was
advanced.
just looking at it as like a
Yeah.
check and balance, making sure that the city also has buy-in, making sure that there's nothing going on with the batteries, because batteries do, especially here in the desert, they will degrade rather quickly versus standard operating temperatures
Right.
somewhere in like Colorado, where temperatures are a
cooler,
lot
yeah.
cooler.
Yeah.
And then us, where we're constantly in 120-degree temps in the summer. And then inside that battery itself, I can cook an egg right on the floor.
say the least.
Yes. No, it's a great point. Yeah, we keep working on it with Noah and his team and coming up with things to bring back to you. We just wanted to do this, you know, I hate to use this term, but it was kind of low-hanging fruit. We needed to take care of it because the commission and the council both said this needs to be in the overlay. We'll get that done, and then we'll keep upgrading, coming back, and offering things as we do with other things. But we try to keep up with technology and make it better. Any other questions? Okay. So maybe the public hearing portion. I don't know.
I see that we've got one. not constructed within 5 years, conditional use permit expires. I didn't realize that we had a 5-year limit on that. Section G, section G, number 3. I didn't realize that, I thought those conditional use permits were for the life of,
For the new ones, that would be the case. We didn't have it on the old, we only have it on one that's existing, that's about to expire, and that portion will drop off. But the other ones, that was one of the newest ones we approved, and we put that condition in there. Now, anything else that's built, that's a solar facility, that'll apply, because it'll apply to new ones, yeah.
I noticed that and I thought, that's nice. Now we can get rid of them if they don't come in and put them in.
Yeah. Yeah, sometimes they're not big enough, because they're, a lot of the ones that are coming in are 1,000 acres or so, you know. Some are 800 and something, but it's mostly around 1,000. Some of them are way bigger than that, so. Yeah, so if we have a smaller one that's not that large, it probably, you know, won't be a solar facility, but it may be a battery energy storage, but it'd have to meet all the requirements, be away from the property lines, you know, all that stuff.
Have to go somewhere else and put it.
Yeah, or away from houses and wherever you want to put it.
Okay.
All right.
Any other questions? Okay. Public hearing? Anybody from the public like to come speak? Yeah, I knew you would.
I'll be very quick.
Okay,
My
Noah,
name's
you got-
Noah Hiscox.
You can have as much time as you want.
Well, thank you, Mr. Metka. I just wanted to thank particularly Mr. Lopez. Phil, thank you so much for meeting with us. And we've come a long way, and I feel really confident that we're getting this thing handled, where we're going to be comfortable in the future. We're kind of stuck with them. It's a barge coming down the river. We just want to be able to steer it a little bit, and I think we're on the right track. So I just want to thank you for seeing us and spending the time with us, and I know we'll spend some more time deciding, what are the safety regulations that we want to use for that conditional use permit. So I'm looking forward to that. So thank you.
Thank you, Noah.
And James.
Yeah. Gilbert, you might want to get a hold of some of these guys that's putting these in and ask them for their safety regulations that they are going to use,
Yes.
and look at those. So you might want to incorporate some of that into this too.
Yeah, and right now what happens is the inspectors that we hire, the special inspector for Stantec, took that into account when they're inspecting these, because like the engineers themselves, like when we talked to the ones at Lemma Corner, we were talking to him and he said, I'm the inspector for the company that owns these, Orsted. And I turned down, these guys aren't happy with me. I just gave them a list of things they got to fix. He says, so I make sure all that's repaired before these things are powered up. And he said, right now these guys are screwing to fix those things that I've identified. So he's an engineer that's the quality control person for that whole facility. So he goes all around the country. That's all he does, inspects these things and makes sure they're. And so they have, he's an engineer. It's what he does. He said, I've been working in this 20, 30 years, and this is what I do, and which is really good, because that means I have somebody very knowledgeable. My brother's an engineer too. They were talking back and forth about how big some of the power is that's being generated. It's pretty impressive.
But, just ask
Yeah,
them for their
absolutely.
safety procedures
Sure.
and get a copy of them.
Absolutely. Yeah, and they'll have different ones because they're different manufacturers of batteries.
Right.
So,
That's
yeah,
right.
LG may be a little different than Tesla, but we could still, I'm sure we can get that information and have it like a dictionary of different battery systems that
Yeah.
we can bring forward. And so we have it. Yeah. Yeah.
'Cause there may be stuff in there for the fire department too.
Oh, absolutely. Yeah, no, they're a big part of, the fire department's a big part of this discussion. They're the ones that have to go out there and deal with it so yeah, they're absolutely involved in the discussion of this, and they're very interested in making sure that what's in here is something that benefits them.
Okay.
And we think about them and their safety too. We don't
No,
want
I
them
know
to,
that. I
yeah,
know.
we don't want them to be in harm's way, so.
Okay. Any other questions? The public portion is closed. Take a motion.
I make a motion, we approve Cool PZ 24-11-44.
I'll second that motion.
And the proposed zoning text amendment.
Yeah, it could be, that's fine.
Yeah,
It's part of it.
add that on to it. Okay. Do you have a second?
I second that motion.
Motion's been made and seconded. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carries.
Thank you all.
Thank you, Noah, for all your hard work. You know, I know you never get thanked very much. You get cussed a lot, but you don't get thanked very much. But thank you. Okay. Cool BZ 24-11-42. Preliminary plat extension submitted by Chris Lenz of United Engineering Group on behalf of Kevin and Tanner Peterson Properties and Management for the Scousen Farm LF LLC for the Scousen Farm Planned Area Development Unit of G through K, a 568 residential lot
Submit
subdivision
into the final plat.
on 134 acre plus or minus parcel generally located on the northwest corner of West Buckeye Inn Road and North Skousen Road, APN number 209-18-003A.
Mr. Chair, Commissioners, this is an extension of a plat that you've already looked at and approved. And because of, I think, market conditions and other things, they need an extension to be able to pull the trigger on this when they get someone that they build it. The cost of concrete and some other things have gone way up. And so they sometimes will need an extension. And we have this in here where, I don't know if some of you were on the commission, we changed it so you could consider an extension once the year period is up, and then to give them a little more time to get this in before, what the next step would be is for them to take the final plat to the city council. But it has to have financial assurances and somebody that's going to put in the streets or the money to do that. And so all they're doing is asking for a little more time, and we can, by the code, we can give them a year. And I say we, it's yourselves. The commission can grant them a year extension if you feel that's proper. And we're recommending that you do that, just because of the inflation and the cost of concrete and some things that are out there. Give them a little more time, because we don't want to run out of lots. You know, we want to build more inventory. So we want to encourage some more lots to be developed so that when the interest rates come down, and we're still getting houses built, but they're being built like in Heartland, in Cross Creek. We're going to start the ones right behind, I'm probably getting ahead of myself, but the ones right behind Gateway. So we have houses that'll go there. They're being developed. That subdivision is getting all cleaned up. There's walls up and street lights are up, so it's looking really cool. And so once then we'll start getting houses there. But this will get to when we run out of those, we want to have more inventory. Here's another development here, and add a nice steady growth. Not anything crazy, but that's what we'd like to see. So this is part of that effort.
Okay.
So, and I have Phil, if he'd like to get a little information on where it's located, so you can see it, and if you
Yeah,
like.
this is the material in the report from last year, just to be part of the record for the request for the extension. So this is going to be a fairly quick cursory review. You can see the subject property here in relationship to some of the other developments around it, nearby their name. Located within the urban neighborhood land use area. Our zoning is planned area development, as most of the areas around it, a little bit of agriculture here. Views are the sites here, basically looking, from this direction from Vikian Road. Subject property is also over here, looking from Vikian Road, and then subject property is here again from Skousen. This was just mostly for last year to make sure of compliance with the P80 and the requested changes. The thing just to focus here is on the 568 here. It actually brought the total number of units that had been previously approved by this number here. So actually, a sort of enhancement, if you will, of this particular portion of the plat. So that's the only thing that we'll pay attention to here. And most of the plan set sheets here were just included once again, just for the record, in case for discussion, or just to put into, once again, the meeting notes here. So I will leave it at that and turn it back over to you, Mr. Chair.
Okay.
And applicant representatives are here to answer any
they are.
questions.
Okay. Any questions on the extension? No questions. Anyone within 300 feet like to come to speak, please step to the microphone. Nothing? Okay. Do I have a motion?
I motion to approve Cool PZ 24-11-42 as presented.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to approve Cool PZ 241142, a preliminary plat extension. All in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed? Motion carried. You guys can go home now.
Thank you.
Yep, you bet.
Okay. Reports from the city manager.
Mr. Chairman, Commissioners, just a update, the Wendy's is moving forward, as you can see it, they're moving fast, they got the, some of the foam board outside, so they're
Yeah.
moving at breakneck speed, that's really good. And then, the Line and Fire, which is across the street here, you see that building, they put up some of the shielding for the equipment, so it looks nicer, it's kind of a metal type product that hides that, but it still lets air through it, you can see it's got holes in it.
Yeah.
That's moving forward. That's almost done. We're almost to the point where we can get done with that. The Rigoberto's, which is north of the Asian restaurant Dragon City, I think it's called. They're moving forward. I keep driving by and I thought that lot looks really small. After
Yeah,
Garrett's
that's what I
put.
was thinking.
But I took a wheel and I walked it and measured it. It's exactly 100 feet wide, which is what the site plan is for Rigoberto's. So they're moving forward and got plans in review and. So hopefully we'll get that approved pretty quick and then they can start moving dirt, put a restaurant in there. It's a good looking building. They had it built, the delay was they had it built in a factory, a modular type building, but it looks exactly like what you approved. So I told them it's got to look exactly the same. And all they do is bring it in pieces and put it on the foundation and bolt it down. It's just under a very controlled environment.
They did it in Casa Grande,
Yeah.
that one they built over there too.
Yep, yeah, so you're seeing that more often now.
Yeah.
That they're using that construction technique. And so we're working also just at iPads on a lot of different projects coming in that we're looking at. And so they're under NDAs, but they're still coming, a lot of them. So we're addressing them, meeting them out on site, talking about Coolidge and what we do and how we do things. And the next step, site plans come to you, so we're trying to get more over here so they can come present. So we got some coming next week, so we'll see. And so we're pretty excited about that. We continue to have those conversations. But we compete against, other places, other states. It's usually Nevada, other places like that. So Tennessee, Texas. So usual suspects, we call them. Mississippi also, yeah. So anyway, that's at this point, and then we're still issuing permits. We're working with Arizona Water. In Heartland, they've got some permits they just issued, so we're cranking those out. So we're still moving forward. And you've seen a lot of road construction being built. So we got a lot of roads that we fixed that Ben Public Works have put in. Hopefully the light is moving forward. They did turn signals on Skousen in 87. So the turn signals are in. They shut it down for a little while. Now they're putting the bases for the electrical, for the lights. Hopefully we'll get those in pretty quick. That's a intersection we've had a lot of accidents. So it takes a while to get those approved and built, but they get done. That's right. So they get done. That's all I have, Mr. Chair.
Yeah. Okay,
I want to thank you all and wish you a Merry Christmas. See you this year.
yes,
You too.
we're gonna have a meeting in January,
Yes.
okay? Bill's right on the ball.
That's right.
Okay, you guys have a Merry Christmas too.
Thank you.
You too, Nick.
Yeah, Nick, to the attorneys.
I have to give him, he gives me a bad time, I have to give him a bad time every once in a while. Hey, I got one more thing I gotta say. The Channel 11 finally is broadcasting some stuff. You might wanna watch it. There was a really sharp movie about the Casa Grande ruins on there the other day. My wife and I sat there and our mouths hung open that finally we saw something on Channel 11. But it was really a good movie.
Thank you.
It went through all the things that they did, the first cover they put on and the second cover and everything. It was pretty good.
Thank you. We'll mention it to Tony Roth. He's our media guy. So thank you.
Well, he's doing a good job now. Okay. Somebody want to make the motion?
Hold on, I hate to, we're all ready to go, we still need to call the public.
One more call to vote.
General call of the public.
Before we adjourn.
Oh, sorry. Anyone from the public want to come speak again? Okay. No one's coming? Now I'll get a motion.
I second.
Motion's been made and seconded to adjourn. I'm sorry, Nick. Meeting adjourned.